Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a complete breakdown and recap of Peacemaker Season 1, a season actually set fully in the unfolding DC universe. We really need a proper episode-by-episode breakdown of everything that you missed and everything that you need to know from the first season back in 2022, and how it all connects to the DC universe now that the Superman film has come out, and everything James Gunn is doing to use Peacemaker to build out the world of the DCU. So consider this your one-stop shop for everything you need to know going into Peacemaker Season 2. Peacemaker Season 1 was really a spin-off from James Gunn's 2021 film The Suicide Squad, which introduced Peacemaker, Chris Smith, John Cena, serving a 4-year stint in Belle Reve and getting recruited by Amanda Waller's Task Force X on a mission to stop Project Starfish on Corto Maltese, with most of that Suicide Squad team dying in the process. And we learned that Project Starfish was actually funded by the American government in a corrupt deal with the Corto Maltese government. Peacemaker kills Rick Flag Jr. and ends up getting shot in the neck by Bloodsport and has a building collapse upon him but ends up surviving. Now in the comics, Christopher Smith first showed up in Charlton Comics Fightin' 5 number 40 in 1966, and the character was later acquired by DC in the mid-80s. In the Silver Age comics, Peacemaker preferred non-lethal weapons, but post-crisis, the guy began using guns, and James Gunn called him, quote, the world's biggest douchebag. Originally, the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker Season 1 were part of the DCEU films like Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and the 2016 Suicide Squad, which is why Peacemaker shared the screen with Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn, and Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag. But this was before James Gunn and Peter Safran would be hired to take over DC Studios in October 2022 and relaunch the DC universe. We'll talk about what is and isn't canon now in this video, and we are told that the first episode of Peacemaker Season 2 will clear a lot of this up in a very interesting way. So let's start with Episode 1, A Whole New Whirled. Released from the hospital with only a broken clavicle, Chris chats with Jamil Rizwan Manji. Manji also appeared in Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Since his character was never named, director David F. Sandberg suggested he was playing the same character from Peacemaker, but James Gunn later said that he thought of the character as Jamil's brother. Chris tells Jamil that Aquaman f***s fish. But in the first episode of the Peacemaker Season 1 rewatch podcast, James Gunn confirmed that this Aquaman discussion is the one part of Episode 1 that is not DCU canon.
It's unlikely that Aquaman is a famous hero in the DCU as Superman in Peacemaker Season 2 is happening. If somebody wants to do the DCU cut, you can cut out Aquaman f***ing fish.
Gunn even followed up on this line in the Episode 5 rewatch podcast episode.
Aquaman doesn't fish. Peacemaker thinks he fish. It's a character. He's not always right about everything, and everything he says isn't factual. Where he learned Aquaman fish is from Pepe the Frog 68 or something. He believes whatever he reads.
As Chris prepares to leave, we see an inventory of his stuff, including his uniform, the phone number of a woman named Valentina, a woman that I assume he met in Corto Maltese, the Corto Maltese currency, a matchbox of the Black Cat, which is from the La Gatita Amable, that's the club where Task Force X found the Thinker, a scrap of paper listing some of the members of Task Force X. You can see his notes, Polka Dot, Abner, and then Black Guy, Bloodsport, and then just Shark. Season 1's amazing opening credits, set to Wigwam's Do You Want to Taste It?, were instantly iconic in 2022 and quickly gained a following as fans learned and reenacted the choreography that was designed by Carissa Barton. All of the main cast joins in, including the top-billed cast, but also Chris's father, Augie, Leota's wife, Kia, Detectives Song and Fitzgibbon, the policeman Locke, Augie's neighbor, and Judo Master, who, in addition to popping out of a trapdoor and getting lifted up by Chris in the final pose, makes a very easy-to-miss cameo much earlier, peeking from behind a flat in the middle of the dance. Chris returns to his trailer and has to pay the fare with his helmet. His address is 1138, probably a nod to George Lucas's THX 1138. Inside, there's a Brood Hollow poster. Brood Hollow is a webcomic created by Chris Straub. Later in the episode, Acquisitions Incorporated, an animated show created by Straub, is seen playing on the TV in the bar. The trailer home also has a penny arcade game, which is another Straub reference. According to a Reddit post, Peacemaker's set designer borrowed these items from the penny arcade team. There's also an Eclipso photo on a dartboard. Eclipso was a DC supervillain who ends up killing Peacemaker when he's on the Shadow Fighters and his helicopter crashes into a tank that Eclipso controls. There's a Dukes of Hazzard poster. James Gunn once said that if he could get Kevin Bacon for the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, he would have tried John Schneider from the original Dukes of Hazzard. We meet the Project Butterfly team that got Chris released early. Their leader is Murn, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, who would later play the High Evolutionary in James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, who we will find out later is secretly a butterfly alien controlling this host. Returning from the Suicide Squad are Argus agents John Economos, Steve Agee, and Amelia Harcourt, Jennifer Holland. They pissed off Amanda Waller by helping Task Force X. They both appeared in the post-credit scene of Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Harcourt also showed up in Black Adam, and Economos appears in the animated Creature Commandos. And then rounding out the team is Leota Adebayo, Danielle Brooks, whom we later learn is Amanda Waller's daughter. When Chris hears Project Butterfly, he assumes he'll be fighting Mothra and asks for a jetpack. Peacemaker does use a jetpack in the comics, and later in episode 7, we see that his dad's White Dragon suit has jet thrusters. Chris visits the home of his father, Augie. The neighbor references Batman.
Batman is a superhero.
Yeah? Joe Blaggadosio Centro's a dude working in his garden.
We see how Augie is just an unapologetic bigot and watches Fact Attack, an Alex Jones InfoWars parody, but in this case, ranting about an alien invasion that is actually currently happening. Chris reunites with Eagly and they share a hug. Augie takes Chris to get a new helmet from his quantum unfolding storage area, a very important piece of technology that will have a much bigger role in season 2, and it is similar to the pocket universe that Lex Luthor uses in the Superman film. Augie hooks Chris up with a helmet with a full body force field and sonic blast capabilities, which comes in handy in the final scene of this episode. Here's the full list of helmets that we see on the rack, and many of them are used throughout the season. There's a standard helmet, that's the original bulletproof helmet from the Suicide Squad. The screwdriver helmet can produce the full body force field. Sonic boom helmet, that's the voice activated sonic boom. Underwater world helmet, that has a fin on top that allows for breathing underwater. There's X-ray vision helmet. He later uses this to ID the butterflies during the raid of the bottling plant, and Leota uses it to learn the truth about Murn. There's scabies for all helmet, which gives everyone in a 1 mile radius scabies. It gets mentioned by Augie in this episode's post-credit scene and comes back up in the finale episode. There's Bound for Good helmet. There's the human torpedo helmet that puts the body in a force field and flings it like a torpedo. Leota uses it in the final battle on the ranch in the season 1 finale. There's the new standard helmet, and then there's the Ichiban helmet, which releases spiky projectiles. Its name is kind of a bastardization of the Japanese word Ichiban, meaning the best, number 1. Augie's passcode for the closet was 261011, which some online have speculated to be a reference to Isaiah 26:10-11, which you could interpret as a verse that might have some meaning for Augie, especially with how religious that family seemed to be. At dinner at Fennel Fields, we meet the busboy Adrian Chase, Freddie Stroma, who we later find out is Vigilante. Adrian Chase was actually the second Vigilante in DC Comics after Greg Saunders and first appeared in the new Teen Titans Annual number 2 in 1983. Chris bonds with Leota and Amelia and ends up hooking up with this woman from the bar, Annie Sturphausen, who we later learn is a butterfly using this body. We actually cut away from their sex to a shot of a caterpillar outside Leota's window, a clue that Annie's body has a butterfly inside. Waller tells her daughter to plant a diary at Chris's house, and you'll notice this diary has a Wayne Foundation sticker, though the logo I would say is more similar to the Christopher Nolan era of Batman than the DCEU Wayne Company logo. After the sex, Chris establishes that this is taking place in the fictional setting of Evergreen, Washington, which in the DC Comics is the hometown of the Comet. There's also an Evergreen City in the comics where Hal Jordan lived northeast of Virginia. Chris dances and sings to the choir boys using a vibrator as a mic, and you can see the scar on his neck from when he was shot in the Suicide Squad. Annie suddenly attacks him with a knife, releasing an extraterrestrial bellow, evoking the screech from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Actually, the bottling plant worker in episode 5 even does the iconic scream and point from the movie. Chris jumps out the window and she follows with ease. He scrambles back to his car for his helmet. Yes, the helmet that Project Butterfly mocked him for, and
Activate sonic boom!
and we can't show the full part of it, but Annie basically goes boom. Eagly arrives and drops a rodent present. Episode 2, Best Friends for Never. Chris, labeled dumb shit in Harcourt's phone, tells her that he hooked up with a metahuman freak using the DCEU term that James Gunn continues to use for the DCU, metahuman. In the Superman film, James Gunn established that metahumans have been known on Earth for about 300 years, but as we will learn, technically butterflies are not metahumans the same way the other metahumans of Earth are. I actually did a full breakdown of all the historical metahumans that are known in the DCU that James Gunn put on the mural in the Hall of Justice in Superman. Murn establishes Project Butterfly HQ at Henenlotter Video, which Gunn named after the filmmaker Frank Henenlotter, known for cult films like Basket Case and Frankenhooker. Detectives Sophie Song and Larry Fitzgibbon are on the scene. Gunn uses the name Fitzgibbon in all of his projects to honor his old friend Larry Fitzgibbon. The cop picks up Annie's face thinking it's pizza.
I think it's a face. A what?
The way the line is said, it feels like a nod to one of my favorite bits in Jaws.
But what kind? What kind of shark?
Tiger shark.
A what?
Chris raids Annie's flat and finds this mysterious alien device that we later learn is a butterfly vessel. He meets Amber and Evan, and immediately it's clear that Amber wants to have sex with Chris, and it ends up happening this episode. Chris falls down level after level to get away, further hurting his shoulder with each hard landing, which feels like a structural metaphor for how he's really going to be reaching rock bottom this episode and end up sobbing on his bed. But he does make it to Leota's getaway car, and even with the gunfire, I love how he pauses to make sure Eagly can fly into the car, even though he's an eagle. He could just soar over all of this and meet him anywhere else later. But it shows how he really does consider Eagly to be his best friend and wants to make sure he's safe. Economos hacks the police network to change the prints at the scene to Augie's, and as he patches up Chris's cuts, he drops a string of DC references.
I'd rather be with Harley Quinn than you. I'd rather be with the Weasel than you. I'd rather be with Batmite than you.
So Harley Quinn obviously referring to Margot Robbie's version of the character last seen in the Suicide Squad. Weasel survived the Corto Maltese beach landing as of the post-credit scene of the Suicide Squad, and does after this return with Task Force M in Creature Commandos, where we learn his tragic backstory. Batmite is a crazy mention, which Economos defines as a 2-foot-tall interdimensional imp who stands Batman. Batmite first appeared in Detective Comics number 267 in 1959. James Gunn confirmed on the Peacemaker podcast that covers the episode 2 stuff that Batmite is not canon to the new DCU.
And I will say that everything in the show is canon, except maybe Batmite, who's one of my favorite characters, but I can't say for sure that Batmite is real.
But that is a character from the comics.
Batmite?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a wonderful character from the comics. He's an imp from the 5th dimension who looks creepy and dresses in a little Batman costume, except for the ears are bent because it's a really ill-fitting Batman costume. Got skinny little legs, fat little body, and he worships Batman. And so he tries to create these extraordinary circumstances for Batman to prove he's a hero, and it's a like nightmarish scenario.
Wow.
But while Batmite is not yet DCU canon, the Superman film did mention that the Justice Gang was fighting some other dimensional imp in the background of Superman's scene with Lois, and a scene that actually began with who on the TV? Peacemaker. So just keep that in mind. After the Project Butterfly team debates who the leak was, Chris suddenly remembers Annie reading his confidential file in bed. So he returns home, where we see on his lawn gnome with the mounted gun a butterfly. Now it's an orange-winged butterfly, not like the blue wings of the alien butterflies, but you know, it is a clue. Chris sobs.
Killed Rick Flag. Flag was right. Peacemaker. What a joke.
These were Rick Flag's final words. And now that we are seeing big screen superhero characters conveying raw, sloppy, authentic emotions, it's just a big part of James Gunn's DNA for his DC universe. Like, there's really great footage of James Gunn and the Superman actor David Cornsweet talking through how to authentically emote in Superman's final speech.
If I say, that's what it is to be human, that feels like I'm trying to prove it still, as opposed to I really know it.
I think there's a little bit of that. I mean,
okay,
but because
let me try
because
that.
The emotions are always lingering.
But isn't there something I felt like shit about myself since the recording came out. It's just been like, I don't belong, I'm shit, everything's a lie, I'm not who I thought I was. When is this not the moment where I go, I was wrong to feel that way?
That's exactly where the issue is, right? Because what he didn't tell you was it was wrong to feel that way. There are feelings and there are thoughts. Your feelings about feeling bad are okay. It's not wrong for you to feel that way. You should just, it's not right or wrong anything. None of it is right or wrong. All of it is being vulnerable and being a human being. And in this moment, for you to talk about how it's okay to be vulnerable, you have to be vulnerable, which means showing Lex that your feelings are hurt in the point when you really shouldn't.
Vigilante shows up outside Chris's window, and we see how his costume is fairly comic accurate, as Freddie Stroma delivers his lines with the full body clowning that's similar to the acting style of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Though, hot take here, I think Freddie Stroma is funnier throughout this season of Peacemaker than Ryan Reynolds ever was playing Deadpool. Yeah, I said it, come at me. We get an indulgent montage where they shoot and blow stuff up in the woods, the kind of macho way bros like this can only bond doing, and it says something that Chris holds some junk where his junk is for Vigilante to shoot off Willie Tell style. When Leota goes to bribe the witnesses, Evan wears an Ultra Bunny shirt. This is the character James Gunn created for Rick Flagg's shirt in the Suicide Squad. The bribe works and they name Augie as the killer, which gets him arrested. We actually see a follow-up to this in the post-credit scene. While Detective Song feels satisfied to arrest the guy who racistly called her chopsticks, to which she could only manage the comeback of fork. When he does get to prison, he's greeted by other white inmates who kneel to him and salute him with Nazi salutes, calling him White Dragon. So White Dragon is a DC Comics character from The Flash number 23 in 1941, the Golden Age, but he was not associated with Peacemaker and was not his father. Song also mentions other prisons in the scene like Arkham or Belle Reve, obviously reminding us of Arkham Asylum in the DCEU, which did appear in the 2016 Suicide Squad film, in Justice League, and in Birds of Prey. Episode 3, Better Goff Dead, an episode named after Senator Goff, a man who, along with his family, are now targets suspected of being butterflies, leading to some interesting ethical debates in this episode over whether it's okay to take lives this way. Episode 3 is where Peacemaker Season 1 quickly becomes a better Secret Invasion storyline than Marvel's Secret Invasion series in 2023 ever got close to being. As they load the truck, Chris tells them that homunculus people, miniature people, freak him out. He references Doll Man, whose first appearance was in Feature Comics number 27 in 1939. James Gunn weighed in on whether Doll Man is DCU canon in the Episode 3 rewatch podcast.
Is Doll Man canon? Guess what? I'm gonna say Doll Man's canon. Let's make him canon.
Okay.
Homunculi.
For the sake of conversation, why Doll Man and not Batmite?
And you'll notice on the doors outside of the building are more Brood Hollow posters. In the truck, Leota asks,
why do all people that think pro wrestling is real think climate change is a hoax? It's not a hoax.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, a meta joke about John Cena's wrestling career. The briefing includes an intro to the character of Judo Master, whose real name is never said on the show, so we don't know if he's the OG Judo Master, Ripley Jagger, or his son Tommy, but we are going to have the opportunity to interview the actor who plays this upcoming on New Rockstars in the coming weeks. Chris objects to killing kids, even though he says one of the kids is ugly. James Gunn later said on the Rewatch podcast episode that he didn't want a child actor to feel ugly, so he put a ton of prosthetics on the girl's face. It's similar to what Chris Columbus did for Buzz's girlfriend, Wolf, in Home Alone. He had his son play this kid in a wig. Chris is mad that the sniper rifle doesn't have his Dove of Peace sigil on it, which he doesn't want to draw on because every time he says he looks like a ghost. Indeed, it really does, as we see him slowly draw it out. In season 2, there's an alternate Peacemaker suit where the Dove of Peace on his chest is yellow and faces up. During the stakeout, Leota and Economos debate the Berenstain Bears Mandela effect phenomenon. Later, she pulls up a photo of the cover of the Berenstain Bears stories of family and friendship to prove it. Harcourt tells Chris about her past working for the DEO, Department of Extra Normal Operations. It's similar to Marvel's S.H.I.E.L.D. and first appeared in Batman 550 in 1998. The Goff family arrives home, but Chris can't take the shot without killing the potentially innocent human bodyguard. Inside, they notice that the family drops their demeanor and starts pouring some yellow fluid in the bowls, which Murn immediately recognizes just from the description is a red flag for butterflies, and that's something Harcourt totally clocks. Still, Chris can't pull the trigger on the kids, so Vigilante steps in and happily takes out the 2 baby bears, then the mama bear, but Judo Master intervenes before the senator can be shot. But that butterfly wife is actually played by Natalia Safran, Peter Safran's wife. She's actually a James Gunn project regular and was also in Aquaman and Suicide Squad, Shazam, and Guardians Volume 3. These deaths cause Amelia to wince though, even knowing they're butterflies. We see that these characters really feel the weight of fighting this kind of shadow war. The other security guard catches Amelia, and Leota struggles on whether to shoot him, but Amelia ends up doing it, not caring whether he's a human or not, and it's left to Leota to cut him open later to check off screen, and he wasn't a butterfly. Judo Master and Senator Goff tie up Chris and Vigilante in the basement, and poor Adrian gets tortured, something Chris is more than willing to let escalate.
Give it all you got!
No.
Vigilante gets his mask removed and immediately starts changing his face so that he can't be recognized in a police lineup. So that line about face muscle exercises in episode 2, he is getting that workout now. Chris knows Adrian as Gut Chase's younger brother. In the comics, Adrian does have a brother named Dorian Chase who takes on the Vigilante mantle after Adrian dies by suicide. Harcourt, Murn, and Leota try to explode the wall barrier, but that Argus explosive goes off too late, catching Murn, but he's not too badly hurt because we later learn that butterfly-controlled hosts have super strength, and that's another clue that Harcourt clocks. Peacemaker gets the upper hand on Goff and shoots his face off, saying,
"Peace out, motherfucker."
Meanwhile, Economos tries to sell a similar catchphrase while beating Judo Master.
Economist, motherfucker.
Yeah.
As a butterfly flies out from Goff, Chris finally gets it, and Murn's computer screen on the truck shows thousands of butterflies all over the world. Episode 4, The Choad Less Traveled. On the drive home, Chris says that he shot the butterfly from Senator Goff's head, but as we see later, he actually jarred it. Chris tells Vigilante,
Ever since I had a team up with Matter Eater, I had my sense of what's known as a little fucked up. I once saw him eat an entire Wendy's restaurant.
So Matter Eater debuted in Adventure Comics number 303 in 1962. He's a guy who can eat anything. Despite Chris calling him a fucking lunatic, Matter Eater Lad was a hero in the comics. He was the 15th member inducted to the Legion of Superheroes. In the episode 4 rewatch podcast, James Gunn talked about Matter Eater.
In the comics, he's from the future. He doesn't exist in present day and somehow. But I'm willing to say, okay, I'll accept a Matter Eater Lad. I think we can live with that.
At Augie's house, Chris sees on the TV a report about Charlie the gorilla being stolen from the zoo. This is a nod to Charlie, aka Sergeant Gorilla. He was introduced in Star Spangled War Stories, Volume 1, number 126 in 1966. His comics origin saw him escaping from a zoo to follow his owner, Sergeant Donovan, to fight in World War II, not to be confused with Gorilla Grodd, the Flash villain. Yes, there are multiple gorillas in the DC comics, and you may remember Gorilla Grodd from the CW series Legends of Tomorrow, when he tried to kill Barack Obama when he was a college student.
Barack Obama, it will almost be an honor to kill you.
I say this with love, but nerds are nerds through and through. It's a lifestyle. You can tell exactly whether somebody's a comic nerd or sci-fi nerd or video game nerd just by seeing the stuff on the shelves in their home. And Whatnot is the absolute best way to shop for the one-of-a-kind collectibles every nerd's shelf needs. Whatnot is a live stream shopping app where you can buy, sell, or auction literally anything. Last time we were browsing Whatnot, we saw a copy of Secret Wars #1 and picked it up so we could get ahead of Kevin Feige. It's in near mint condition and has an absolutely awesome cover for display, but we're not going to keep it. It's for you. Whatnot sponsoring us to do a giveaway, and it's super easy to enter. To enter for a chance to win this, just comment down below with your Whatnot username and tell us something on the platform you've had your eye on. Who knows, maybe it'll wind up being something we purchase for a future giveaway. If you don't have a Whatnot account already, it's okay. We've got a QR code and a link you can use to sign up and get started. If you use our link to sign up, you'll get $20 off your first purchase, redeemable anywhere on the app. Then you can come back and comment with your username to be entered into the giveaway, or just find your new favorite on Whatnot. This is a limited time offer where new Rockstars viewers can get an extra $5 off their first purchase. So make sure to click and sign up today. Chris goes into his father's QUC and explains some of the logic of it to Adrian.
It's a quantum unfolding storage area. It leads to a dimensional nodule outside normal space.
We see Augie's white dragon suit, which looks fairly comic accurate, at least in terms of the color scheme, and I have to imagine Adrian having a chance to observe the suit here might have led to his ability to short circuit it later on. Augie's neighbor compares Chris to Batman again, referencing the hero's coterie of supervillains, listing Joker, Riddler, and Mad Hatter, but neither Riddler nor Mad Hatter ever appeared in the DCEU. Now, our beloved DCU Riddler was in Matt Reeves' The Batman, but that's a separate universe. Chris argues that Batman is a pussy, a jackass, a candy ass because he doesn't kill people. He says Batman should have killed all those villains instead of putting them in a prison just for them to escape and kill more people. Ultra Bunny, who was previously seen on Rick Flag's shirt in the Suicide Squad and on Evan's shirt in Peacemaker episode 2, is also seen on Adrian's dashboard in episode 4. He is an English version of the phrase that was in Spanish on Rick's shirt. Obstacles are opportunities. That was the production slogan for the Suicide Squad. On Chris's way in to visit Augie in prison, Leota tells him that she read his file, bringing up the recurring concerns Chris has about his history with his father and brother throughout this episode. She manipulates Adrian to get himself arrested so he can be jailed with Augie and kill Augie, and we get this prolonged scene of Adrian trying to lift the trash can like Spike Lee does and do the right thing and throws it into the window in front of all the cops. Peacemaker as a series just does a really good job knowing when to stay with the character doing something really dumb for longer than 20 seconds because it just gets funnier if you let it breathe like that. Economos returns to HQ and finds Judo Master having gotten free. Chris and Judo Master fight outside. There's a truck that has Atomic Age written on the side. The Atomic Age is the era of DC Comics that began after World War II. Leota stops the fight by shooting Judo Master in the chest, but he doesn't die. Peacemaker thinks because he can shift his kidney in place of his heart.
These martial artists, they are hardcore.
Adrian sits at Augie's table and deliberately enrages the white supremacists, but Augie doesn't take the bait.
Let's each say something that we're grateful for that black people have contributed to American culture.
The episode ends with Chris getting high with Eagly and the jarred butterfly, who gets totally hotboxed at one point, and flashbacks show that Augie made Chris kill people when he was a kid and have these boy fights with his brother that resulted in Keith's death. Leota finds a business card for the Glen Thai bottling plant, the source of the butterfly's food, and recalls that Annie worked there as well, and we learn that Murn is a butterfly. Holy shit. On to episode 5, Monkey Dory. Murn briefs the team on the butterflies and mentions other known hosts, Alan Kupperberg, the billionaire CEO of Wearsoft and the pop singer Vandalia. Alan Kupperberg was a comics artist who illustrated DC titles such as the Justice League of America. He passed away in 2015. Murn says that the butterflies can enter through any orifice, and the 3D figure that Economos made for the rectal entry has the same muscular build that John Cena has, so obviously this is targeted at Chris. Adrian argues that saying aliens like to crawl through poop is bigotry, and Chris replies,
Superman's an alien. He's got a poop fetish.
What? Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, yeah. He uber-liebes the old shizes. I understand it.
Where do you get this nonsense?
On episode 5 of the Rewatch podcast, James Gunn addressed this.
This is not canon.
Oh.
Are you sure?
Yes. But it is canon that
Convenient.
Peacemaker thinks that. Or believes everything he reads.
Chris names off other celebrities that Economos could have framed instead of his father. James Gunn said that the only names in the script were just Drake and Ariana Grande, and that John Cena ad-libbed the rest. So we hear Ariana Grande, Drake, Brad Pitt, Patrick Stewart, Doug the Pug, Khloe Kardashian, Red Tiger from Voltron, which is actually a mistake. It's actually Red Lion from Voltron, Fran Tarkenton, Joe Mantegna, Eddie Murphy, Michael Jordan, Michael B. Jordan, BTS, Eugene Levy, John Lovitz, Danny DeVito, Will Ferrell, Howard Stern, Baba Booey, Robin Ophelia Quivers, Alice Cooper, Ozzy Osbourne, Sharon Osbourne, Bill Cosby, Amy Winehouse, Optimus Prime, Shipwreck and Cobra Commander, and
the from Riverdale.
Riverdale, of course, is Greg Berlanti's other CW franchise, along with the DC series that he made.
Well, sorry to say the C word, but when he says the cunts from Riverdale, and that was when the crew lost it.
Erupted.
The post-credit scene features Chris naming even more celebrities.
All right, most of those, you're right, could probably go to prison, but I would never put Ariana Grande in there. She looks too innocent.
Possibly true. Possibly.
Gunn meets with Casper Locke.
You've come a far way from the jungles of Nyasur.
Nyasur is a DC African country first mentioned in Action Comics 848 in 2007. The comic was also the debut of Jared Dale, aka Redemption, a minor character with big powers and has gone up against Superman. Chris takes his X-ray vision helmet on their mission to the Glantai plant and immediately starts killing everyone because he can see the butterflies. This sequence could be a nod to They Live, when another wrestler, Roddy Piper, puts on glasses that allows him to see humans being controlled by aliens. Charlie the gorilla, referenced in the previous episode, shows up here, being controlled by a butterfly. Economos kills him with a chainsaw. In the comics, Sergeant Gorilla, aka Charlie, does not talk, but presumably it was a butterfly that enabled this gorilla to be able to talk. Gunn's longtime collaborator, Stephen Blakeheart, voices Charlie the gorilla. Blakeheart also played Lex Luthor's aide, Sidney Saperson, in the Superman film. On the drive back, they all bond to the Hanoi rock song 11th Street Kids, which Economos has a tattoo of, and it becomes the name of their group chat. Chris invites Leota in for a drink, and she sees a newspaper clipping on the wall that says, "New hero Peacemaker apprehends Kite Man." Kite Man first appeared in Batman number 133 in August 1960. James Gunn previously considered using Kite Man for the Suicide Squad, but ultimately went with Polka Dot Man instead. On the episode 5 Rewatch podcast, Gunn answered a question if Kite Man was really dead and if he could appear in the DCU.
So we could see Kite Man, sure.
This episode ends with Leota using the X-ray vision helmet to accidentally discover that Murn is a butterfly, and he chases her into the street. Episode 6, Murn After Reading. Gunn said that this was his favorite episode of season 1, and so much happens here. I get it. Harcourt reveals she figured out Murn was a butterfly a bit earlier, and Murn says that originally his species planned to just settle on Earth peacefully, but then most of them decided to take over the power structures of the human race, leading him to dissent. Murn says that he tried to take over the body of the worst human he could find, and that the butterflies can tap into the memories of the people they take control over.
Even he could have changed. I know that. I took that from him. I took his freedom and his face, and every day I dread waking up to his memories.
Again, more context about the relationship between the parasite and the host than Marvel's Secret Invasion ever bothered to give us. Like, I hate to compare Marvel versus DC, and I'm not gonna do it all the time, but just Marvel had the perfect bluepreint for this kind of story with this season of television, and they still made whatever they made. Murn says Goff's real name cannot be pronounced with a human mouth, but it sounds something like
Ick stack ick ick.
Ick stack ick ick.
Yes.
This shit is getting goofy.
Peacemaker visits Jamil's daughter's school and tells the story of how he defeated Kite Man, mentioned in the previous episode. All it took was his fists, Eagly, and 2 rocket launchers. Kite Man was attempting to steal the Blakeheart Ruby, which might be another nod to Stevie Blakeheart. One kid asks, "Do you have a coterie of supervillains?" Which is a callback to Augie's brother talking about Batman. He calls one kid gender-swapped Alfred E. Newman, who's a Mad Magazine mascot. The girl asks Chris about the Flash, and she's wearing a Flash t-shirt. He calls the Flash an unbearable D-bag. And when asked about Wonder Woman, he says, "I've never met her, but she did It's been an entire party. I effing me across the room. Finally, a little girl asks Chris if she knows her mom, Becky Coolidge, and says that she thinks Peacemaker is her real dad. In the episode 6 rewatch podcast, Gunn was asked if it's canon that Peacemaker has an illegitimate daughter, and he said Becky Coolidge may be full of shit, but when he wrote this joke, he definitely thought this girl was probably Chris's daughter. Now we know that the Goff butterfly that Chris still has is the leader. The Goff butterfly draws a peace sign, so they start communicating with yes or no questions, and they ask questions based on alien movies, Pitch Black, Alien, E.T., and Close Encounters. Adrian starts listing random movies, Three Amigos, Porky's 2. Adrian's ringtone we hear is Barbie Girl by Aqua. While this show was being produced, Warner Brothers was also in development of their upcoming Margot Robbie, Greta Gerwig Barbie film. With Augie released from prison from Song's uncle, Judge Judy's order, the cops now raid Chris's trailer and they find the diary from Amanda Waller that Leota planted there. The entries are all about aliens and are clearly meant to make Chris look crazy. There are some theories online that the one eye you see among the entry could be a reference to Starro, but considering that Amanda Waller went to great lengths to keep all that quiet, it doesn't seem like she would have put that in there. Goff gets free and zips into Song's mouth. Don't move! As Chris and Adrian flee, Eagly soars in front of them and dive bombs the cops. It's so cool. But then Locke goes a step further and shoots those cops. Adrian references the cloud and Chris gets upset, saying the cloud happened when he was in prison and doesn't understand the cloud.
Everybody talks about this fucking cloud. They might as well be talking about neuropsychology or cricket or Blackpink songs.
Blackpink's As If It's Your Last was actually featured in Justice League, the 2017 release, so this kind of feels like it's dissing the Joss Whedon cut. Locke tells Song and Fitzgibbon that the killer is someone matching the description of the Hamburglar, quote, a Caucasian man with red hair, striped shirt, red tie, a mask, and a fedora who ran off saying, "Robble." The post-credit scene of this episode is just Locke doing some facial muscle exercises to try to look sad before they run up on the scene.
Does this look sad?
Economos figures out that the amber liquid producing cow that they're seeking is at Cloverdale Ranch. David Cloverdale is a lead singer of Whitesnake. Naming the ranch after him aligns with Peacemaker's music taste. Goff/Song assembles a huge flock of butterflies and takes over the police station, including Larry, Locke, and the various prisoners we've met. Augie suits up in his white dragon suit. We learn from a scene with Leota and Keela that they're actually from Gotham City, which is interesting. Chris plays a cover of Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue on the piano. The cover was arranged by the Suicide Squad composer John Murphy, who also co-composed the music for Superman. In the episode 6 rewatch podcast, Gunn said that he wrote the scene because when they shot the Suicide Squad, Gunn's beloved dog, Dr. Wesley Von Spears, was dying. So he's trying to get home, but no flights were leaving Panama.
And we went and we sat down in that hotel bar. There was a little piano in the bar, and John played Is She Weird by the Pixies. And it was beautiful.
Locke/the Butterfly does a press conference about Chris's fake diary, blaming him for all the butterfly and human deaths, calling for his arrest. On to episode 7, Stop Dragging My Heart Around. The opening of this episode tells us the significance of Chris playing Motley Crue's Home Sweet Home, as that's a song that he and his brother rocked out to when they were kids, and the last song his brother heard before he died. Augie forced the boys to fight in a pit so that the neighborhood could bet on it, and Chris punches Keith too hard that the kid has a seizure and dies, and Augie screams at Chris. So we see how this is probably playing in Chris's head the moment he killed Rick Flag. The team realize they have to kill the cow, and Leota comes clean that Amanda Waller is her mother, something Murn already put together.
You think I wouldn't do a background check on anyone coming to work with us?
Judah Master got free again and deals with some Boondock Saints loving doofuses outside a convenience store. You can't see a newspaper dispenser outside that shows a paper with a headline about the shootout outside Chris's trailer in episode 6. Augie rallies with some local racists who wear KKK-coded white dragon hoods, and Iron Man's over to find his son. In the comics, White Dragon has fire-based powers, but here, all the power, including flight, comes from the suit. But in the way that his gauntlets fire a blast that can melt metal, feels like a nod to the comic powers. We learned in this episode that Adrian can't pee if clothes are touching his butt and has to take his pants fully off. In the episode 7 rewatch podcast, James Gunn and Steve Agee said that they do know a famous actor and comedian who cannot poop unless he's completely naked, and they would not name who that is. But this led to a pretty unhinged story from Gunn about how he was prepping for a colonoscopy and drank the laxative fluid and tripped in his home and then released what he called a pinwheel of shit. Agee then asked if Superman has ever shit in his pants.
From what? His health is perfect. What's going to cause him? Mexican food wouldn't do anything to him.
But Peacemaker is definitely shit his pants, for sure.
Peacemaker's got drug and alcohol issues. He's definitely shit his pants.
Chris and the others flee, and Chris throws them off the scent by tying his helmet to a raccoon. James Gunn paying homage to his favorite animal.
And raccoons are hardcore, man.
The police forces led by Song break into the apartment and shoot Murn. And when his butterfly crawls out of its mouth, Song grabs the alien and crushes it in her hand. It's so sad as he reaches out to touch Amelia's finger as he passes away. Judah Master arrives.
Ding dong, bitches.
And the two women impressively hold him off. Chris and Economos catch up with a passed out Adrian, but they get swarmed by Augie's gang. Augie smacks Eagly. Which, not that it matters to someone like Augie, it is a federal offense to strike a bald eagle. Augie rages at his son.
I knew you was unclean when you were born. I knew when you slept with the whores of polluted blood and men.
Yes, and men. Peacemaker is bisexual, and that's why earlier in the season he said he had no problem with men sleeping with other men. Making the character bi was actually John Cena's idea. Adrian shorts out Augie's armor, Economos shoots the rest of the gang, and when Augie loses his gauntlet blasters, Chris shoots him in the head with one of the gang's German Luger pistols. Chris breaks down sobbing, and Adrian thinks he's doing his facial exercises again.
Dude, this is a really weird time to do your face exercises.
He's crying, asshole.
They all catch up at an animal shelter where, after some prayer, Eagly recovers and gives Chris another hug that Leota witnesses this time. They plot to go to the ranch to kill the cow before the butterflies can teleport it to one of their other unknown locations. We end this episode on this cow, a giant creature being milked for the amber fluid, reminding us of one of the giant bugs in Starship Troopers. The post-credits scene of this episode is my favorite, as it's outtakes from Locke's press conference where the cop on the right cannot stop breaking.
Clean your toes. Start at the bottom, work your way up.
On to the finale, episode 8, it's Cow or Never. Now the gang is headed in the veterinarian bus to the ranch, and Leota calls Amanda Waller to release the Justice League to help them.
No, I'm not kidding.
Who do show up in the final scene. Chris explains his remaining helmets to Leota, and when she asks how many charges it has, he says,
I don't know, 3, maybe 4.
An important difference. We learn about the human torpedo helmet, and Leota accidentally activates the anti-gravity helmet, so it just floats away. Chris pitches.
Well, we could shoot a fishing line over to the barn for one of these trees here and just let the helmet slide down.
Like Green Arrow?
Like dude goes to brony conventions dressed in the back half of Twilight Sparkle with a 4-inch wide butthole drilled in the costume.
We call back to the Aquaman f***ing fish theory. These two instances are the only true rumors about the other DC heroes, according to them. Eagly starts to fly the helmet to the barn, but then flies past it and drops it in the woods. And like Jack Shephard in Lost, Chris is haunted by his father's ghost in the woods. While Chris blow darts in the direction where it's just a tree, not his dad, Amelia realizes it is in the exact spot where the helmet that his dad built had landed. Larry/Butterfly stops Economos, who plays it cool, but immediately throws up when he's alone. He sees the cow and runs away saying,
No more kaijus, no more kaijus.
Which is a direct reference to Starro in the Suicide Squad. Larry stops Economos again and asks why the body he took over has a dyed beard. And Economos finally admits after this whole season that it is dyed, an emotional speech that clearly makes Chris feel guilty for all the jokes he's made. One of the butterflies finds the planted helmet and they all swarm Economos. Leota activates the sonic boom. Economos gets away. Chris, Harcourt, and Adrian storm the butterflies with their weapons on the way to kill the cow. The opening credit song, Do You Want to Taste It? Plays over this action. Chris uses a shield, which some believe could be a nod to James Gunn telling John Cena to approach the character like a douchey Captain America during the making of the Suicide Squad. Adrian kills Larry, but then gets shot and passes out. Harcourt gets shot and falls. Leota grabs a gun and decides to join this action. Economos tries to go after, but trips and falls and really hurts his leg. He is later seen using a crutch for the entirety of Creature Commandos. Harcourt almost gets taken over by a butterfly, but Leota saves her. She wants to get her out, but Harcourt insists she goes and helps Chris. Economos crawls over with a helmet, the human torpedo. Meanwhile, Chris fights Sophie. Leota comes in and tries to save him by activating the helmet, but she just flies into a wall. Sophie asks Chris to help the butterflies. She tells him that they're not doing it for power, but because we took a vow. The idea of a vow obviously means something to Chris. She says when the butterflies came to Earth, they quickly learned it was on a similar path to their now destroyed planet. The vow was to do anything we could to change your future. They want to save the world because humans are incapable of doing it themselves, no matter how many lives it costs us. Chris flashes to killing his brother and Flag. A young Chris prays to God for peace. Sophie thanks Chris for the kindness he showed her earlier in the season by feeding her and caring for her. I see who you are and I see your character. That's what the peace sign in the jar meant. Be the peacemaker. Join us in saving your planet. Chris replies with,
Activate human torpedo.
Which flings Leota into the body of the cow, killing it. He shoots Sophie, but lets Goff live after she crawls out of her mouth. So the team reconvenes. Chris picks up Harcourt's body and they all walk away from their accomplished mission. And that's when, hilariously, the Justice League of the DCEU shows up. From the shadows, you can see Superman, Aquaman, The Flash, and Wonder Woman, but not Batman. Chris says,
You're late, you fucking dickheads. Go fuck another fish, asshole.
Jason Momoa and Ezra Miller actually appear as Aquaman and The Flash. Aquaman says,
I'm so f***ing sick of that rumor.
It's not a rumor.
In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter in December, James Gunn confirmed this cameo was no longer fully canon. He said, yeah, they're light canon. Peacemaker is pretty straightforward, with the exception of the appearance by a certain group, the former DCEU's Justice League, at the end. They don't exist yet, but the rule is, if we mention something from the past in one of the new DCU shows and movies, then it happened. So that's the way we're dealing with it. When the episode released, Gunn also said there was a reason Batman and Cyborg were not present, but wouldn't say why. Leota and Chris chat at a hospital while Adrian and Harcourt get treated, Chris asks her if she heard everything Goff said and wonders, did I just kill the world? And she replies,
Maybe. Or maybe you just gave us a chance to make our own choices instead of our bug overlords.
Chris says the reason he didn't help the butterflies is because he knew they would hurt Leota and the others. She apologizes again for betraying him and he accepts. He says,
after Eagly, you're my BFF.
He's grown. Leota does a press conference. You see a van for Charlton News 5, which is named after Charlton Comics, the company that originated Peacemaker before being bought by DC. She also tells the truth about Task Force X and explains that convicted criminals are undertaking dangerous missions. She reveals that it's under the command of Amanda Waller. And Waller is shown watching the news and says, what the Second Viola Davis cameo. Leota calls for an investigation into her own mom. In a closing montage, we see that Harcourt lives. She puts her hand for Chris to take. Leota goes home to her wife and her dogs. Economos goes back to work at Belle Reve, which sets up his role in Creature Commandos. He puts a picture of himself, Chris, and Adrian on his desk. Judah Master cries over all the butterfly bodies. Chris and Adrian have fun exploding a car together. We see Harcourt in physical therapy. We see Butterfly Goff coming to Chris's window, and he feeds her the remaining goo. Chris is still seeing his dead father, who sits next to him in the final shot, which ends with Eagly dropping another rodent present to Chris before coming into frame. So a few things to know going into season 2. Rick Flag Sr. will join the cast after we saw him played by Frank Grillo in the Superman film and the character in animated form in Creature Commandos. Isabella Merced, Nathan Fillion, and Sean Gunn will return as Hawk Girl, Guy Gardner, and Maxwell Lord from Superman, as will Stephen Blakeheart and Terrence Rosemore as Happerson and Otis from the film. Sol Rodriguez joins the cast as Sasha Bordeaux, and Tim Meadows joins the cast as Langston Fleury and an Argus agent, and Michael Rooker will be playing Red St. Wild, the world's foremost eagle hunter trying to kill Eagly. The season will be set 1 month after the events of Superman, and the QUC will play a very important role this season. We learn at San Diego Comic-Con that there are 99 other universes that it leads to, and Chris will spend part of the season trying to escape his troubles by living in an alternate world where he didn't go through what he went through in this world. But there are other universes like with giant skull spiders that we're going to see. Gunn also teased even bigger cameos, and certain press has not even gotten to see screeners for episodes 6 through 8 because just some big DC cameos are expected. Maybe Superman or Lex Luthor, maybe Mr. Terrific. Hey, comment down below with your thoughts on the season, and a big thanks to Jamie Jirac for all the research and writing work she did with the script, and thanks to Gina Ippolito for the added research from all the Peacemaker rewatch podcasts. And a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Jeremy Dunham, who supports us at the executive producer level. Follow me at EA Voss and subscribe to all the channels in the New Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.